Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to another Sunday Mind, Body, and Spirit Development class. I'm your host, Matt. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today, we're going to talk about love and fear, and what do both of those categories have to do with one another? But first, let's go ahead and start with a quick workout, a quick feel-good sweat. A quick burn. Anyway, let's go ahead and get right into it. So let's go ahead and do some squats. So for those of you guys that have never done a squat, it's actually pretty simple. It's you want to make sure that your back is completely straight. You want to make sure your shoulders are rolled back, chest is out. Squats are really good for your anterior leg muscles, such as your quads, and it's very good for your glutes, and then a little bit of hamstring action too. But let's go ahead and get into it. So first thing you want to do is you want your feet about shoulder width apart. Here, let me show you guys really quick. For those of you guys watching at home. Sorry, I got to move this. So the one thing that, so first things first, you want to stand up nice and tall. You want to kind of look up at the ceiling a little bit, or you could just look straight at the wall as you're doing it. But what you're going to do is you're going to have your feet. Notice how my feet aren't too wide like this, or too narrow like that. But it's just perfect. It's you want to be about shoulder width apart like this. And I'm going to go ahead and turn over to the side so that you guys can see. We're going to do about 10 reps each. We're going to do a total of 3 sets. So one thing you want to make sure you always do is to keep your back nice and neutral. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I'm going to do one more because I want to show you guys really quick. You want to make sure that your knees are at about a 90-degree angle, and you also want to make sure that you're bring your glutes down as far as they can go. For me, can't really go super low because I'm taller and I have really bad hip mobility right now, to be honest. But just go down as far as you can go, and then just shoot straight up. Make sure that you tuck those buttocks in nice and tight, and you want to make sure that as you're coming up, that you're bringing yourself nice and straight, nice and tall. So we're gonna do another set. This time from the front. So again, you guys know what to do. Bring your glutes down as far as they can go. You want to make sure that your toes are pointed towards the wall. Here we go, 6. We got 4 more. 1, 2. Now, as you're doing this, 3. You can hold your hands together, or you can keep your hands at your sides, wherever makes you feel more comfortable. Okay. Time out. I always say that you want to give yourself at least a 30 to 45 second break in between sets. If you're at a PR, if you're 1 rep maxing on bench, or squat, you always want to make sure that you take longer rest periods than that. I would say about a minute or 2 minutes for PR, and then 30 to 45 for just normal working sets. So one more time, we're gonna make sure that we're standing nice and tall, and we're just gonna do the best that we can. I know a lot of people have very, very bad hip flexors, and that's why a lot of people, when they start out are super tight, and they're compromising their back. They're bending their back a little bit too much. You don't want to bend your back at all, but if you're bending it too much, and if your toes are pointed out as opposed to facing straight ahead, then that's a problem. More than likely, you have overactive hamstrings if you do that. But if your toes are pointed out like this, then that means that that your quads are overactive. But anyway, let's go ahead and get in our last set. We're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, go ahead and take a break. I'm going to take a quick water break. Now we're going to go ahead and do 3 sets of burpees. So the starting position is very similar to the starting position for a squat. You just again make sure that your shoulders are rolled back, that your chest is completely out, and that you're staring straight at the wall, toes pointed forward, and you're going to come down in a squat position again. Just go down as far as you can go. And then you're gonna use your hands towards the ceiling. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so notice towards the end how I had sort of like a forward lean like this. Chances are, if that happens, you have very overactive chest muscles and very underactive latissimus dorsis, aka your lats. Okay. Once you start to notice that forward lean, you don't want to make sure that you're doing lat pull downs often. You guys probably have a lat pull down machine either at your local gym or in your basement. But I would suggest doing lat pull downs and doing some back rows. Just so that way you're keeping your back nice and straight the whole time, because the last thing you want to do is hurt your back by bending it. But let's go ahead and get into our next set. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so notice how as opposed to the first set, I was keeping my back nice and straight. There was no forward leaning of the chest at all. That's exactly how you should do it. Okay, so Last set. Take as long as you guys need to. Drink plenty of water. This isn't actually smart water. This is my gym's water. Or it's not shitty LA Fitness water. Okay, last set, everybody. Let's go. We're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Woo! Feel it. Feel that burn, baby. We are ready to go. We are ready to rock, and we're ready to hit it. Now, let's go ahead and do some stretching. Bring your fingers all the way down to the ground. You can have a slight bend at the knees. That's totally fine. Just try not to bend them too much. And if you are bending them a little bit too much, you can also place your fingers behind your ankles too, if that helps. But try and just bring your fingers down towards the floor. Hold that in for as long as you can. Okay, now we're going to slowly come back up. Take a few nice deep breaths. Through out your nose and through out your mouth. Now we're gonna bring our elbows to the back of our heads. We're gonna do a nice little shoulder stretch here. And we're gonna go ahead and stretch the lats. While doing so, we're just gonna go one at a time here. Okay, now we're gonna switch. Okay, go ahead and roll your shoulders. Everybody feels nice and loose. All right, I think we're ready. All right, guys. That was fun, wasn't it? Oh man. Well, anyway, guys, let's talk about love. How many of you guys have felt love or have given love? How many of you guys grew up in a family with loving parents? How many of you grew up with parents that were loving but weren't always supportive? And there's always this 50-50 split of how they felt about you, or how they treated you, right? And it doesn't always necessarily have to do with the kid, right? It doesn't even necessarily have to do with their spouse, but something could be going on in their life that they feel like they're completely out of control over, and so they're not showing up. They weren't showing up in the ways that were adequate, and so you kind of have some idea about what love is, but now you have a very gray area, compromise version of what love is. And I think that's where people, I think that's where people usually fall. They usually fall into that category of hot and cold. And when you grow up in an environment of ruled by hot and cold, well then guess what you're going to do? Now you're going to be sort of hot and cold in your other relationships outside of your nuclear family, and that's going to carry over into your relationship with your significant other, your spouse, your kids. But it's always up to us to break that cycle. We can make the choice. Hey, I love my dad, I love my mom, but I kind of think that the way that they raised me and the way that they treated me is a little fucked, and I want to change that. And I'm gonna be. I always say, when I was younger, when I was between the ages of 17 and 20 and 23, let's just say, I always thought that I wanted to grow up and become better than my parents. But as I've gotten older, I've started to realize that when I have kids, I want them to be better than me. And I'm not exactly sure where this came from for me. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe it's because the older that I get, the stronger my desire is to get married and have kids and do the whole thing. But that's kind of where I'm at. And just as long as you have this victor as opposed to victim mindset, where you're 30-something years old and you're still blaming your parents for everything that went wrong in your life. If you decide to make the choice to say, hey, my parents weren't perfect, my parents, and it doesn't matter who your parents were. It doesn't. Your dad could be Jeff Epstein. Your dad could be what's the name of that guy, the serial killer? There's a street in Santa Monica named after him. But anyway, if your father was that, if your father was Charles Manson, if your father was John Wayne Gacy, if your father was Scott Peter, even if your father is the cruelest, most evil piece of shit to ever walk on the face of the earth, you should still love him, and you should still love him solely for the fact that he and your mother gave you life, right? And what you can do with that is say, hey, you know what? Instead of blaming my parents for everything, because everything that's ever happened to me from the time that I was 18 until 32 years old is exactly everything that's ever happened to me is my fault. That's what it all really comes down to. And it doesn't matter how bad it is. It's your fault. But I think in order to acknowledge that it's your fault and that you can change it to make it to where it's not your fault anymore, and completely break the cycle and become a better person, become a better man, become a better woman, be a better significant other, be a better spouse, be a better father, be a better mother. It takes love. And you might say, well, Matt, how do I get love? My parents were this. My parents were the worst parents in the world. They haven't taught me anything about love. My dad's never even said "I love you" to me even once. Not my dad, but I'm just speaking hypothetically. How do I do that? Well, that's a good question. I think you have to create it, and not only do you have to create it, it's already inside of you. You already have it. You've had it your whole life. You've just never known it up until this point. If you can muster up enough courage to acknowledge that you are a powerful human being, that you are capable of doing anything and everything, you can love. You can first love yourself, and then you can love other people, right? Including your parents, especially your parents. Because maybe your parents grew up with worse parents, and their parents did shit to them growing up that you can't even imagine. And people just naturally, based off of our normal human nature, we start to normalize certain things, certain environments, certain ways that our parents try to raise us. We from a very young age, we internalize that as being normal. Okay, because anything that you watch, anything that an adult tries to teach you or tells you, when you're a kid between the ages of from birth until 13 or 14 years old, you are going to apply all that knowledge, and you're gonna start to make it a model for your life, and then the same cycle just keeps repeating, and it never changes. And not only do you never change, but you actually start to get worse, and you may even become worse than your parents, if you can believe it. But I think the only thing that really sets us back, I think the only person or the only thing that's standing in our way of doing that is fear. Now you hear people say all the time, and Kevin Hart has a great quote about this. The only person that's standing in the way right now of what you want to do or where you want to go is you. But it gets a little bit more complicated than that, because if you live in fear, right, you decide to make that the benchmark for how to live your life, and you let it dictate every action, every move, every decision that you're going to make for the rest of your life. If you let fear completely diminish you and really erode who you are as a human being, then it's impossible to change anything. It's impossible. I mean, you might have goals, right? You might have certain things that you want to do, but how likely are you going to be? How likely is it that you're going to follow up on any of the things that you keep telling yourself that you're going to do, and that you keep telling everybody else that you're going to do? And that's because you live in fear. You're scared of whatever the boogeyman is. You're scared of that. You're scared that you might not get the job. You're scared that that you might say something like at a family dinner, and then your family's going to start turning on you, or they're going to start being completely unsupportive and antagonistic. You fear that you fear that you may never find the love of your life. You fear that by going to that bar on Friday night and hitting on that girl, is she going to reject me? Is she going to say no? Is she going to look the other way and completely ignore me? Those are all legitimate fears, right? I don't want to drive anywhere today because because there's a whole lot of car accidents that's going on right now here in Los Angeles, and I just don't want to take the risk. That's a fear, right? And that's a legitimate fear. Or, you know, I don't want to go on a carpool lane because I'm too close to the wall right next to it, and I don't want to crash into the wall, right? That was my fear when I first started driving carpool, was, oh my God, like, look at this wall like right next to me. I don't want to. I got to get out of the carpool lane. I got to switch over to the left lane, or the middle lane, or the right lane, or the shoulder. Or I want to just get off of the freeway completely, because by going back on the street, there's a stronger margin of safety, right? There's traffic lights, there's stoplights, there's stop signs, right? There are more traffic laws on the highways than there are on the freeways. Freeways, you go 65, 75. There's no stoplights. You don't stop anywhere unless you're sitting in traffic. It's all fair game. But they call it a freeway for a reason, because you're freer, because you're free to drive, maybe not as fast as you want, but you can drive relatively fast, right? You can be speed racer. You can be Dale Earnhardt for a day. You know, you could be John Force for a day. But some people have a very deeply held fear of going on the freeway. And the same thing goes for life, right? People are afraid of life. People are afraid of taking a chance. People are afraid. I mean, there's people like me that have gone years just coasting, not taking anything super seriously, not really working on myself, not really growing as a man, because in order to grow as a man takes courage, right? Because just being a man by itself is terrifying, because as a man, the expectation is that you are the provider, that you are the protector, and you're either a provider just for yourself, or you're a provider for your wife or your kids, or both. And if something happens, if you and your family are deep asleep, and you hear a bump in the night, that's terrifying, right? That sends shivers down your spine, because guess who's going to have to get out of bed and go and check out what's going on? It's you, the man. I mean, it's terrifying. You don't want to actually get into a physical altercation with somebody. You don't want to actually have to shoot somebody. You don't actually want to be shot. You don't want to be the one on the receiving end of the abuse or the attack. That's terrifying, and then there's been this consistent boycott of men over the last 10 or 20 years that has really diminished men, and has really like just plucked the confidence out of every man, especially men that are becoming boys that are becoming men, right? They see everything, they see all this, they see everything that's going on, and they're just really terrified of becoming men, because men are not being regarded or respected in the manner in which we deserve, right? And look, I'm not saying this um, to diminish women or to say that one is greater or better than the other, or that another sex should have more power and autonomy over the other sex. That's not what I'm here to say at all. But as a man, it is expected that you can handle it, right? And that you're prepared to handle it. And the other expectation too is that you are to be the leader, right? Even if you're not in a leadership position anywhere, you are still either a leader of yourself or you're a leader of your family. But everybody is afraid. People are terrified right now. I think I don't know if I brought this up before, but there's a study that just came out about the percentage of young single women between the ages of 18 and 30, as opposed to the percentage of single men between the ages of 18 and 30. And I think it's 60% of men in that age category are single. And I wonder why that is. I don't know if it's because they're not taking into account the men that that like the young guys that they don't want to commit or anything. They just kind of want to play the field, and they just want to sleep with a bunch of women. Maybe they're not looking at that at all, or maybe they're not taking into account guys that men and women that are that young. Typically they break up, and they break up often because you don't really know yourself. You don't really know who you are as a human being, right? You're not even really a full-fledged adult yet, right? I mean, your brain's not even fully formed until you're 25 years old. So this is definitely very common among guys in their early 20s for sure, and then even mid to late 20s as well. And it's because men just have this irrational fear. Why would you ever turn away from your phone, where you're looking at Pornhub? You have this instant access. It's right there at your fingertips. You can watch it anytime you want. You can watch girls getting naked. You can watch them fucking, twerking. Why would you ever do that and risk why would you ever go out and take the risk of being rejected, right? Or having an actual real live human woman say no to you to your face? That's tough, right? That doesn't feel good. But again, it all circles back to fear. So what are you fearful of exactly? I just listed all the possibilities. We just went over what society currently struggles with right now. Guys, it's dating because of the Me Too movement that's been going on over the last 6 or 7 years, right? I think that's starting to die down a little bit. I think it's starting to become a thing of the past now, which is good. And don't get me wrong, any woman that has ever legitimately been manipulated or inappropriately touched by some guy at work or some guy right on the streets, if some guy's trying to rape her, that guy's a piece of shit, and he belongs not in a prison, but he just shouldn't be alive anymore, right? So I can totally empathize with women that have been in very dangerous situations like that, or very uncomfortable, cringy situations with men. You know, these old 65-year-old men that, you know, that maybe are married. Their kids are, you know, 35, 40 years old. But they just need a nice young piece of ass that they can manipulate, and that they can, you know, can convince you to do things that maybe you don't want to do. But that doesn't make up. It shouldn't classify all men as being misogynistic or pigs, or, you know, whatever. But a lot of guys, especially young guys, have a really hard time with that. They don't want to be Me Too. They don't want some girl complaining to somebody else about them, especially if it's at work, or if it's at school or something like that, or if it's at church. Guys just don't, they don't want a piece of that pie. You know, they don't want anything to do with that drama whatsoever, and I can't completely blame them. But then all you're doing is looking at a screen all day, or looking at a screen when you go on break at work, because you're too terrified. You can't muster up enough courage to just go up to them and say, "Hey, my name is Matt. What's your name? I'd like to take you out. I think I like you. Yada yada yada." But fear. We really have a fear problem in this country. And the reason why we have a fear problem is that most people don't really know what love is, or they can't love. They're incapable of expressing love. They're incapable of receiving love. Because again, they have this warped, twisted version of what they've always been taught is what love is. And the only person, the only man, the only woman that can reverse the meaning, that can bring that meaning back to love is the expression of care. It's also the expression of somebody that you adore, that you admire, and you do it in physical ways. You do it through hugs, or you do it through side hugs, you know, or you do it if you're at a job interview. You're obviously not gonna go up to a supervisor and start hugging them, right? But you are gonna shake their hand. And what is your handshake like? I don't know. I've always been taught that your handshake has to be a very strong grip, not to the point where you're trying to break somebody's hand, but it has to be firm, and it has to be a strong grip. I've ran into so many guys that, especially the young ones, that had this very floppy fish handshake, and I start to wonder, did their parents love them enough to show them to just basic skills that you already need to know in life? When you go to a job interview, when you're trying to get a job, or when you're going to a bank because you're trying to start a business, you're trying to open a gym, but you need some support, you need some financial help. So you go to a bank and you fill out an application to get a business loan. And whoever the loan officer is, how do you greet them usually? Well, you shake their hand. And your handshake needs to be firm, and it needs to be a strong hand grip, like you want to be there, like you're excited to be there. Man, I can't wait to talk to these guys and show them my business plan and show them my structure so that I can get approved and I can finally get this going. But even something as simple as a handshake, where does that usually come from? Love for yourself. Because guess what? If you don't love yourself, and what are some of the ways that you can show yourself that you don't love yourself? Well, you can let yourself rot, for one thing. You can let yourself get fat, and then while you're fat, you allow yourself to get obese, and you're just gorging yourself, and you're not moving. You're being completely lethargic. You're just watching TV, or you're watching Netflix, you're watching Hulu, or you're scrolling through Instagram. But you don't love yourself enough to take that initiative. You don't love yourself to give yourself a chance. You haven't even given yourself a fair shake yet, and already you've given up. You know it, and I know it. You have to love yourself, and the first step in loving yourself is that you have to get up. You may have been beaten down, you may have been knocked on your ass, but if you get right back up, guess what? That's an act of love. And when you can do this, and when you can do that for yourself, when you can get back up after you've been knocked down, well then, when somebody else gets knocked down, now you can offer them a hand. Here, let me help you. And then you bring them back up off the floor. Because you don't know anything about this person. You don't know who they are, what their intentions are, what they like to do. All you know right now is that you just see some random person lying on the ground, right? You just see them lying carte blanche on the ground. And what happened? How did they get there? Did somebody knock them down? Did they just get into a fight that they couldn't win? Who knows? But now you've started the conversation with them. Now you've planted the seed. And maybe that person doesn't know anything about love. And how could they? They've never been loved. But you just showed them. Even though nobody showed you. You showed that person, hey, I have no idea who you are. You're a complete stranger. But I don't know. I don't know what it is about you, but I love you. And I want to see you get back up, and I want to see you do better. But it starts with you. Love yourself. Pass the love along to other people. Receive love from other people. How much more fearful are you going to be after that? How much fear are you going to have with inside yourself, having been loved and cared for by other people, and vice versa? How much fear do you have for really anything? I mean, there's people out on the front lines right now, young men and women that decided to give their life up, to sacrifice everything, sacrifice their freedom to go out and protect ours. Now, the current military action that's taking place right now is neither warranted. It's completely unnecessary. Why are we doing this to begin with? This war that we're in right now. But nevertheless, They took a stand, and they showed courage. Courage that I've never had in my own life to go and do something like that. And what's their perception of love? What do they think love is? Have they ever been loved? Do they have people in their life that they love? Who knows? But just that simple act of saying, "Hey, I'm worth it, and because I'm worth it, I'm going to do this." That's a courageous act of love right there. And to these people, even though it's scary, even though you're just always feeling like you're walking on IEDs and literally and figuratively, like, man, what day's going to be my last day? I have no idea. I have no idea if I'm going to make it out of this war alive, or if I will never see my friends or my family again. But I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this because I love myself. And it's really strange how love completely eliminates fear, what makes us fearful, and anything that appears scary. I'm going to go ahead and close this off with 1 John 4:18. This is where the apostle Paul is talking about, I'm sorry, John 4:18. Did I say 1 John 4:18? It's John 4:18. And this is basically talking about Jesus. During the last days of Jesus's pending execution, you can imagine all the fear that was just inside of your body. This isn't some modern day mass murderer who's going to go on the electric chair. You know, if you're in a death penalty state like Texas, you know, where you have no idea what day or what the hour is that you are going to be tied to an electric. Is it an electric? I don't think it's an electric chair anymore. I think it's like they inject poison. I think some states still use electric chairs, but anyway, his execution was nowhere near that. We all know the story, right? He died one of the most brutal deaths, or if not the most brutal death of any human in mankind. And he was just on edge. He was so scared, and he was having these conversations with God, asking him to give him peace. I know what's about to happen to me, but please give me peace right now, because I'm terrified. I can't move. I can barely speak. I'm horrified about what's going to happen to me. So let's go ahead and read it off. John 4:18. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I am a very fearful person. I think at times I have the habit of masquerading myself as this sort of tough guy, you know, that works alone, that likes to do everything alone, and you know, that likes to get into fights. I may even appear that way. You see me walking down the street, I have a very brooding look. and so I might come off as intimidating to other people, because I'm tall, and if you get me to talking, you hear my deep voice, and you're like, oh shit, like I don't want to mess with this guy, right? But I'm a very, very anxious, very fearful person. I just had a panic attack last night, and it was while I was working. It was very debilitating. It was very scary, and I've been having these quite often lately. I don't remember ever having panic attacks really when I was in my 20s or when I was a teenager. This is very recent. This didn't start showing up until about 30, 31 for me, which is kind of weird, right? You would think that as you get older, you start to fear less, right? Because you've been there and done that. You already know what to do, or you should already know what to do at least. You should be prepared. But not everybody's prepared. And I don't think anybody's prepared. I don't think anybody's ready for danger or for inevitable circumstances. I think people, for the most part, are full of shit, and they're terrified, and they're scared, and they don't know how to deal. They don't know how they're going to deal with what's coming. But I've been having panic attacks a lot lately, and this time last night it was around like 9 o'clock, and I was super tired. I was just thinking about this whole situation with Instagram. It's just it's just a doubt that comes up. We all have doubts, but this, for whatever reason, it really shook me, and I started having heart palpitations. I was grabbing at my neck a lot, and I was actually driving a couple. This was in I believe it was Glendale, and the guy in the backseat was asking me like, "Hey, I noticed you grabbing at your neck a lot. Is everything okay?" And I was like, yeah. No, it's totally cool, man. I just have a lot of thoughts going through my head right now. He was like, okay, cool. By the way, probably not a good idea to do that, because if somebody's already anxious and someone's already having a panic attack, you don't want to exacerbate it by asking them. It's one thing if it's so bad that I can't breathe, or that I start swerving because I can't control it. That's when you should start expressing your concern, right? But when it's just me grabbing at my neck, don't do that. It's just gonna make it worse. But and just so you know, I'm not blaming the guy at all. It was just me getting inside my own head, and just not having any control, and I started freaking out, and so I dropped him and his wife or his girlfriend. I dropped them off somewhere. I canceled the ride, and I said, hey guys, sorry, some things have come up, and I have to take a break. You're not going to get charged or anything, but I really need to end the trip. So that's what happened, and it is what it is. It's something that I've made aware to myself that I gotta take whatever steps I need to prevent that from happening again. I gotta get more sleep. I gotta take more control over my emotional health. I gotta take more control over my anxiety. I gotta take more personal responsibility, not just over my own life, but over this too, because this is all created by me. This is all, even if it, it literally started from nothing, and it's my baby, but because it's my baby, I have to take care of it. And maybe I'm not taking care of it in ways that are adequate or that are necessary in order to grow it into its full potential. So sorry, had a little mini panic attack right there. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate having you. Again, if you want to watch more videos, or if you want to keep watching, if you want to keep tuning into these lives, make sure that you subscribe, that you follow me on Instagram. It's Matty_Ice. I think I finally figured out how to get these lives up on YouTube. I just tried to upload the last one that I did on YouTube the other day, but I guess it was too long, and it was taking up too much space, or whatever it was, whatever happened there. But I think I'm starting to figure it out. So if I can upload these lives onto my YouTube, then you guys can watch them there too. But that's going to be my temporary home for all my videos from now on, because I can't upload any full lengths here on Instagram, at least for right now. I have no idea what's going on there. For those of you guys that are wondering why I haven't been posting on there, it's because I can't. So yeah, guys. Anyway, just share, subscribe, follow, and then make sure that you catch me every Sunday, either here live, or you can catch a replay whenever you get some time. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and as always, I will talk to you again soon.